How's it going, dudes? So you love war. The feel of the breeze, the wind in your hair, the sun shining on your face. Yes sir, there's nothing quite like a good old war. But you've got a problem. In addition to your crippling fear of death, you really don't want to invest too much thought into your war effort. I mean, enough thought that it still feels like you're a strategic genius at the end, while at the same time being able to look at your phone for a bit without getting court-martialed. Well, buddy, 1957 is going to be a great year for you. Risk, one of the most well-known board games on the scene. Grab your territories, place your troops, and massacre men by the thousands, now for ages 10 and up. Risk is one of my all-time favorites. Approachable by both veterans and newcomers, the game has enough strategy to hold your attention with bonus zones and alliances, but crucially is also immensely based on the luck of your rolls to where everything could fall apart at any moment. A lot of frustration on offer. Regardless of what anyone thinks though, Risk has been a massive success ever since it was put to market, selling over 25 million copies and being one of the top 20 best-selling games of all time. And you know what happens when something starts bringing in the cash, we start making all kinds of crap. While not as obscene as something like Monopoly, the number of different versions of Risk out there is quite crazy. As a reminder that no matter how you spin a tie-in or revamp, during the course of the game, somebody is going to have to die. That has not stopped anyone before though, and it is certainly not going to stop me now, as I've looked through the extensive list of titles that have gone through this wacky war and have brought back my favorites that we can suffer through together. So grab those country cards and get comfy in Australia as we look through the worst and weirdest of Risk. Now, before we start getting into the real weird stuff like Spanish Batman, a quick disclaimer on how this video will be sorted. See, normally in the worst and weirdest series, our titles are split into two categories. Themed editions, where it's just the exact same game with that one guy slash thing slapped on the box, and revamped editions that rework how the game plays in some unique way. Now, this ended up serving us quite well with both Monopoly and Yahtzee, but when it comes to Risk, this filing system holds up about as well as a Maginot Line. There, I pronounced it right. Jeez, it only took me 2 years. See, in terms of Risk tie-ins, the group that would normally make up most of the themed editions, the executive teams of these properties did not just want their IP slapped on the game, as is normally standard practice. Instead deciding that each and every one of these should have a unique twist that's relevant to the universe that's being portrayed. And while this is fantastic for the fans, as it makes these products even more tailored to them, this leaves me in a rough spot because I only have 3 games total that qualify as themed editions. In fact, there are so few that I can just cover them all right here, right now. The Risk 40th and 60th Anniversary Editions. Why did they decide to just skip the 50th anniversary? Don't question the all-knowing power of an executive team. Each made to celebrate their respective milestones, these are standard Risk games with extra care put into the boards and components as a celebration of the series. And while the 60th does have a great board, the 40th is the real prize here. With a new design on the dice, a redrawn world map that each comes with its own unique serial number, and individually painted metal army pieces that come in their own colored drawstring pouch. Yeah, there's a reason that this thing usually runs for around 200 smackers. Rustic Risk comes inside of a fully wooden box that contains the fully wooden board. It's perfect for my fully wooden personality. The armies are also returned to their original wooden square style, and all of the items are purposefully given a worn look so that you feel like you dug this sucker out of a cellar in northern France. And that is all of the themed editions. Wow, that's some great content right there. So in order to supplement our lack of half of the gosh dang structure, we'll be following a new path for this round. To start us off, we'll be looking at the titles that are considered slight revamps. Games that maybe change 1 or 2 elements of the title to better fit with their respective tie-in. After that, we'll be looking at the major revamps, the games that really screwed with the genetic code of the series and produced some horrible monstrosity that barely resembles that which came before. And as a little extra treat to fill the themed edition size hole in your heart, we'll end this one off with a mystery category that I think you'll enjoy quite well. But before we get into that, we have a milestone to celebrate, as for the very first time, the Board Game channel has a video sponsored by an actual board game. Not only that, it has also taken the place of Sale of the Century as the largest game that I own, Aldara. Aldara is a combat strategy game where you're tasked with leading your fleet of beautifully designed flying ships through the ruins of the once great nation, mining resources while battling your friends as you aim to gain control of the region. Aldara is what my friend described as a mix of Risk and Catan. All of the approachability of Risk with the added benefits that your strategy actually matters, there's no elimination that'll force you to wait 2 hours for the game to end, and you're commanding a fleet of giant flying battleships. And unlike most of the other games that I cover on this channel, it's dang good. The tile-based map makes it so that no two games are the same, especially if you decide to take control of a new faction on each playthrough, who each come with their own unique designs and skill sets. The combat is really well designed too, with 3 phases in each round that will have you weighing your options, knowing that your opponents will get the chance to counter. I kid you not, I spent 7 hours just running through the game by myself because of the gameplay loop, when I could have been spending that time, oh I don't know, doing work? Gather your friends and hit the skies with up to 4 players, or nab the Savage Skies expansion and add 2 more unique factions for up to 6, including the group that commands their fleet of flying armored battle whales. Alrighty, found the new favorite. To check out more of what Aldara has on offer, head on over to their site below, and use code KamSandwich15 to get an extra 15% taken off any order. And if you've played Aldara before, let me know below how you liked it. I'm very curious. Thank you again to Aldara for sponsoring this video. Now let's regrettably return to normal, ground-based warfare as we see what nonsense Risk is presenting us with today. The slight revamps are the most popular Risk rendition that these companies pursue, and in order to convey this to you, I'm going to list off 24 different versions that I managed to come across during my searches, which I'd like to mention is not all of them, there are still more out there. I'll be rattling them off back to back, but in addition to their names, I'll also be mentioning the 1 or 2 things that they have changed to separate themselves from the standard game. Different map does not count because, well, that's a given. We've got 24 of these to get through and 2 more categories after that, so let's get schmovin'. 3, 2, 1, run it. Risk processions et marches folkloriques de l'entrée sombre et muse. That's what we're starting with? Constrict your campaign to this region of Belgium in addition to adding new units like the drummer, so you can, quote, conquer the Entrée Sombre et Muse region of Belgium with a marching band. Yes, your primitive weapons mean nothing against the power of music. Risk Stranger Things. Take control of either the good or evil cast from a show I've definitely watched as you fight for control of the Upside Down while both sharing the common goal of trying to stop whatever this Vecna guy is up to. Is that a spoiler? I have no idea. Risk Peaky Blinders. Join your favorite members of the Silly Hat Club as you take and complete missions in different regions from characters of the show. Fun fact about this one, apparently it is just completely broken. Vikings Risk the Conquest of Europe. Another one based off a show, invade Europe using the new Viking longship units for water traversal and your Cards of the Gods power-ups for some hot smiting action. Risk Transformers, the Decepticon invasion of Earth. Features human units that can either help out the Autobots or be enslaved by the Decepticons. Our first named slavery mechanic, and it came from a Transformers tie-in. Good gravy. Risk Transformers Cybertron Battle Edition. Ditches the slavery mechanic to instead allow you to strategically change up parts of the map. This game also comes with a max 6-turn limit before it abruptly ends, which is a massive time save compared to how long this battle took in the lore. Confound it, Risico, Batman La Catura de Gotham City. Choose your Batman villain and attempt to enact your unique villain plan to grant yourself powers in the game to help your conquest of Gotham. Batman is here as well, as if at any point 5 ones are rolled during the course of a turn, Batman will swoop in and just wipe out an entire area of troops, straight up massacre Gun Batman style. Narnia Risk Jr., a simpler version of the Risk gameplay with a lower army count. But the real reason that this is here is because it was designed by the one and only Richard Borg? Not Berg, the designer of the campaign for North Africa, the Desert War 1940-43, Borg, a completely different award-winning wargame designer with the first name Richard. I swear, if we find a Richard Barg later down the line, I'm eating another die. Risk Marvel Cinematic Universe. Take control of your favorite heroes, each coming with their own unique powers. Risk Captain America Civil War Edition. Take control of your favorite heroes, each coming with their own unique powers, while also trying to not miss your flight. Risk Rick and Morty. Characters, powers, play as the United States government? Funniest Risk I've ever seen, you wouldn't get it. Risk Balance of Power, a unique two-player version of the game featuring capitals, terrain effects, and strategic goals. Much closer to your standard wargame than most Risk titles, so you better get those brain gears whirring up for this one. Risk Deep Space, a kid's version of Risk with only 9 planets to fight over that also includes resource mining and base building. Why does the kids' version have more strategic depth than the base one, huh? Risk the Lord of the Rings. Middle-earth themed Risk that carries leaders, missions, and sites of power that grant unique bonuses. There is a trilogy edition of the game that features all of the content, but allegedly if you only got the first one, which was the Two Towers, the map would just be incomplete unless you also purchased an expansion, so better get that wallet out, big boy. Risk Call of Duty Zombies. Aim for control over various iconic zombies locations while attempting to fight off not only the other players, but also the zombie horde. Also comes with a 17-step Easter egg, including rolling 7 sixes in a row and lighting the board on fire in order to see Richtofen playing Mario Kart Double Dash. Risk Star Wars The Clone Wars Edition. Standard adds heroes with powers Risk, but I've included it because halfway through the game, the Order 66 event triggers and completely shifts the balance of power and the team's objectives. Not even gonna lie, that sounds simply phenomenal. Risk The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Todd, you've done it again. Comes with armor, spells, heroes, and dragons that you'll have to fight off throughout this civil war. Gives you the opportunity to invent your own Dragon Shout too after your friend eliminates you and your rage boils over. Risk the Dalek Invasion of Earth. Take control of one of several Dalek factions as you try to take control of Earth and find an ancient weapon. Just like Batman, the Doctor will be wandering around attempting to stop the Daleks and will cause everyone to lose if no one can find the weapon in time. Christopher Eccleston is still the best Doctor. Let's continue. Risk Plants vs. Zombies. Attack or defend Brainsboro as you take control of either the plants or the zombies. What's cool about this one is that you have your standard Risk battle for the neighborhood option, but also have access to a yard defense mode that plays similar to the app, which is just a chef's kiss touch. Risk Assassin's Creed. Honestly, this one is pretty close to a standard themed edition of Risk, but does have a few cards with interesting effects. Like the Sigma Team card that immediately eliminates all players and ends the game. Coming in with a clutch Mercy Kill, another win for the Sigmas. Risk Dune. One of the more recent versions, this one includes story elements and power trees for the Fremen and House Harkonnen forces that increase their power as they gain more control. Yes, it does come with Big Worm. If it didn't have Big Worm, we'd have quite a problem on our hands. Risk Game of Thrones. Includes 2 maps of different locations and also carries a Dominion rule set, which adds victory points to the equation to make for a quicker, more satisfying ending. Risk Warhammer 40,000. If the title includes the full number, I'm gonna say the full number. Risk Warhammer 40 Grand is coming at you with leaders and custom pieces for each faction, which I will now read off and try to make sense of as someone who knows absolutely nothing about Warhammer. Marnius Calgar leads the Ultramarines with individual Primaris Intercessors and Repulsor battle tanks as their 3-unit pieces. The Aldari Craftworlds faction, led by an Autarch, has Guardians at attention with Falcons as their tanks. And Magnus's Gene Stealer cult boasts weapon-wielding acolytes and heavily armored Goliath rock grinders. By the Emperor, what the heck is a Gene Stealer? And finally, Risk Metal Gear Solid. Kept you waiting, huh? This one uses the standard Risk map with the inclusion of the movable Outer Haven territory. And whoever happens to have control of Metal Gear Rex at the current moment has the option to politely launch nuclear armaments against their foes. You also have access to a weapon to surpass Metal Gear by using your hands to flip the table over. Special units are also available to players as well-known characters in their Metal Gear Solid 4 forms, which is a real shame as give me Revengeance Raiden and that game is over in 5 minutes. And those are all the slight revamps that I have on offer. Overall, a couple real strange tie-ins from this group, but some cool ideas emerging from them as well. But these babies only took their revamp process so far before stopping. After all, they didn't want to stray too far from the beaten path lest they risk alienating the main audience. Haha! Our next group, though, had no such qualms, as they decided to dive right on into the strange ideas pile head first, no matter how much bodily harm was generated along the way. So let's jump right on in with them and see what these massive revamps decided to do to this classic. We've got less of these than the slight revamps, but still hold a sizable collection to go through, and we'll be marching through this group by getting increasingly weirder with the ideas of each title. Starting us off, we head on back over to Europe to see the sights in Castle Risk. Oh, the building? Yes, of course, that's what I was thinking too. Castle Risk uses the same dice combat system as the standard game, but changes a ton of the other mechanics. Most notably, how the reinforcements work in general. In this game, you place down reinforcements at the end of your turn instead of at the start, and also there are no country cards nor bonuses for the number of countries you control. The region control bonuses are still in effect, but the new troop boost comes from your castle, which holds your banner and will grant you more troops per turn if you are able to capture the banners of other castles on the map. There are also several position cards that will grant you unique bonuses based on the situation, including the Spy card that will allow you to look at your opponent's hand and discard one of their cards if you're feeling particularly sneaky today. Don't want to fight a war of the past? Then fight a war of the present with Risk Battlefield Rogue! Ah yes, first-person shooter to top-down squad management, a seamless transition. Risk Battlefield presents a new gameplay spin on the series, providing 9 different scenarios for players to choose from, each coming with its own win condition. You could also just say F it and make your own board from the tiles. Heck, you want to battle in a W? We can't stop you. The real draw of this one is the combat, which has been completely overhauled into a more battlefield approach with squads that utilize different troops, vehicle options, air support, cover, destructible terrain, the whole 6.5 yards. Even the action of drawing cards has been overhauled, as each deck provides support to different aspects like air or ground. So you'll need to weigh your decision based on how screwed you are in one area to maybe salvage the mess that you've gotten yourself into. The revamped everything reportedly works really well in making it feel like you're actually playing a Battlefield match without it being extremely confusing, making this the second first-person shooter board game that we've covered that manages to capture the essence of the original game in a fun way. And this one didn't even need a horrific Kickstarter controversy. See, they masterfully avoided that pitfall by apparently not telling anyone about the game and basically shadow dropping the sucker with no warning. That'll do it. Not happy about the fact that the games you own get worse as you break the components? Well, never fear, as you can get the opposite result from our next 2 titles, Risk Legacy and Risk Shadow Forces. 2 games that will be joining Breaky in the distinguished hall of games that force you to permanently break the components. That's some good company right there. These 2 titles are legacy-style games. Similar to that pandemic version that everyone's been raving about, every game that you will play will leave a permanent impact on the game that will change how it is played in the future. This can come in the form of establishing new major cities, changing the names of continents, completely removing the bonuses provided by territories, or ripping a bonus card in half and throwing it in the trash. Not even an exaggeration, the rules explicitly state throw it in the trash. By the time you get to game 4, this sucker is completely unrecognizable. Tired of going worldwide with your releases? Then narrow your release window with Risk Edition Napoleon. France. This 1999 version of the game had an extremely limited release, only producing 10,000 total copies that were only sold in the nation of France. This has made the game quite tough to get your hands on, as well as very valuable, which wouldn't be as much of an issue if it was just a collector's edition, but no, this is a completely different game in the way that it plays. This edition is Risk and pretty much map only, as it introduces really advanced strategic options like generals, fortress sieges, naval combat, and maritime blockades. It even came with its own version of DLC with an expansion that added the Ottoman Empire and historically accurate generals. We're getting to the point that this isn't even a Risk version anymore, it's just a regular war game. So let's avoid falling into the war game hole by shifting onto a completely different track. How about one that doesn't even come with a gosh dang board? Risk Express. Lay the 14 country circles on the table and roll the dice to see if you get the symbols needed to conquer that area. Each territory group carries a point value with bonuses being given for controlling continents. Winner is the one with the most points at the end. This is, once again, absolutely not Risk. This is a dice roller where you are counting on luck to get you the symbols you need to fill their respective battle line. Each one can only be filled one at a time, and on your next roll, if you fail to fill another, you must remove one of those dice and try again. Now, even though this isn't Risk, that doesn't mean that there isn't combat, as you can battle it out for someone's already claimed territory if you manage to fill both the original requirements and the additional general needed to make the move. So you'll need to think quite a bit as to whether you should take the risk on an attack or grab one of the remaining countries from the ever-shrinking pool. Despite how weird and simple this sounds, it has a pretty great rating on Board Game Geek, which caught me way off guard because these people despised the simplicity of the original. I guess like most people, they just cannot resist the allure of a good circle. And now we have reached the coveted final 3 games of this catalog. And while I have mentioned a couple of times the "no, that is not Risk play," those at least still bore a resemblance to the game in some way. Here, these are just 3 entirely different board games. Starting us off with this crew, we begin by forming our own in the pirate-themed Risk Jr., aka the biggest missed opportunity for a Jake and the Neverland Pirates crossover I have ever seen. Always remember, kids, a good pirate never takes another person's property. Risk Jr. sees 4 scallywags attempt to take over islands in order to claim the treasure that is located on each one. Each treasure you take will contain a certain amount of points, and you will also get points for how many islands you control at the end. Whoever has the most points when the last chest is claimed wins. Risk Jr. is really just an entry point to the concept of dice combat for young kids. When they arrive in an island that is not theirs, they will need to battle it out by loading 1 die into their ship and rolling it by hitting the lever, which will launch it up. If they roll higher than the other player, they get the island and the treasure. This little launching the die into the air with the ship, ladies and gentlemen, is what us board game casuals refer to as fun and really cool. Of course, if you lose the duel, you don't get the island and the other player gets the treasure. And since every island is given to a player at the start of the game, if you land on a space that you started the game off with, nothing happens and you don't get the chest. Despite the name and the dice combat, I really would not call this a Risk game. There are no units, eliminations, or bonuses, and the territory control is really just a secondary thought behind the race to the finish action of trying to collect as many chests as possible. But compared to the next one, this sucker looks like a straight up remaster, as not only is our next title nothing like the original, it's not even a gosh dang board game. Escape Box Risk. What do we have on offer here? A home version of a Risk-themed escape room. What's worse, I can only find versions in French! They strike again! Escape Box Risk puts you and your little gaggle of friends in the shoes of the General's aides. You enter his tent to ready the battle orders, and unfortunately, the wind scatters them all over the place into a completely unrecognizable state. He'll be here in 1 hour, so you need to spend that time solving the riddles and reorganizing the orders, otherwise the General will have you put in front of a firing squad? Seems like a twinge of an overreaction, but hey, he's the General. Fire! The game is organized with a GM running the whole operation, while the other 6 players all take one of these specialty jobs that will allow them certain privileges. And they'll need to work together in order to fix this mess and avoid the General's incredibly fair and just punishment. In addition to its 3 scenarios, apparently the sucker also comes with a 1 hour long soundtrack to fully immerse yourself in the atmosphere of Risk. which could mean either the cozy soft-tone anthems of a war room or just a straight hour of screaming and gunfire from the front lines. In either case, a good option to help you doze off at night. But at the very least, this version has the setting of an actual war, a battle of some sort where blows will be traded. Our last title couldn't even get that part down, instead going for the angle of metaphorical war by trading in the salvos for staplers. Risk office politics. Come on guys, work is an everyday battle, am I right, ladies? Risk Office Politics is another title from the A parody of the classic line, which contains such winners as the Game of Life Quarter Life Crisis and Monopoly Socialism. But while that one was a poorly themed, interesting new take on the Monopoly gameplay, Risk OP sets itself apart by deciding to be absolutely terrible. The idea is unique. You need to acquire your own little force of managers and interns in order to sabotage your opponent's network and slowly gain control of the office, spreading rumors and using bribes in order to give yourself an edge. My favorite part is that these bribes aren't any form of monetary compensation, they're just donuts, which come with their own little pieces, and when you bring them into combat, you spend it to add one of your opponent's pieces of your choice to your side for that battle. And since they end up leaving the board or getting fired after this happens, that must be one pretty dang good donut. The rumor cards are also a highlight, as you're meant to substitute your friends' names into the rumor for a comedic effect, which could work pretty well if you decide to ham it up a bit. I'll tell you something, I've heard that Coulson has been routinely taking double the allotted company bathroom time. This all seems like good corporate sanctioned fun for sure, but the game kind of loses its way in the execution, mostly because the rules are partially incomprehensible. I have found multiple reports that people just could not figure out how the game is supposed to work, and some not even being sure if they played through it the way it was intended, with the common consensus being that you are going to have to make up some stuff yourself if you plan on making it through this title without multiple problems coming up. A real shame too, as this is a stupid enough idea to have the potential to be really fun. Fighting a war in the office. What will they think of next? Shooting guns in Monopoly? That'd just be crazy. But that brings to a close all of the weird and wild versions of Risk on offer. Well, all of the official versions. Yes, the license holders are not the only ones who have played around with the Risk brand, as plenty of fans have crafted their own unofficial expansions to the classic in order to add bits and bobs that they think will make the game better. As such, we're going to take a look at some of these expansions to see what the general public has been cooking up, and see if any of them were able to do what Hasbro couldn't and make the absolute perfect version of Risk. Now, there are quite a few of these unofficial versions, many of them looking to either add more depth to the game or give a change of scenery, like Medieval Risk or Over the Trenches, about what you'd expect from a fan revamp. But some of these babies have some real interesting stories or get real creative with their changes, and those are the ones that I want to focus on because I like it when my brain has to go into overclock mode to try and comprehend what I am looking at. Starting off with quite the introduction, 3D Risk, which is a combination of Risk and Star Trek 3D chess. Here is a picture. This is a Risk variant that was quite literally built by hand, as the Board Game Geek page description is from the creator of the game himself, who was generous enough to describe the construction process of this enigma. Quote, "The entire game was built on a wooden door cut in the center so it can be packed up and taken on travels. The planets were built on wooden platforms and connected to the base plate via wooden pegs. The army pieces were made from broomsticks, round pieces, and the others by sawing rectangular rods. Rocks were glued to the surface of the board and elevations were made from insulation foam. Electric illumination from toy railroads were added later. The pictures added here are from the candle sun phase. Board gaming via candlelight, huh? I've gotta say, that is an interesting idea. The game mainly runs off of standard Risk rules, but features unique rules and conditions for space travel and planetary oddities, such as needing to capture both sides of a mountain range before you can launch an assault on the top. The goal of this one is to achieve your mission objectives and proceed to the final conflict against Orion, who is sort of the final boss / territory itself. I don't know, it's tough to process, but you'll need to take him on quick, as if another player sees you go after Orion and takes the opportunity to snap your objective, you'll need to go back. The creator says that it never left this conceptual design phase, but allowed us several years of extreme gaming fun. So it's pretty cool that they had an idea of the game that they wanted and just decided to build it out of the crap that they had lying around. Absolutely stellar work. But moving from a completely new version to a much less taxing addition, we have One World Dominion, an unauthorized expansion for Risk. Oh, look at this handsome devil on the front of the book here, luring people in with the eye candy, I see. One World Dominion is a Risk expansion produced by Interformic Games that uses all of the standard rules of Risk but replaces the territory cards with 44 new cards that you will get when you capture an area. These cards can be turned in for the bonus armies just like in the standard game, but the real draw is that these cards also carry effects that you can choose to play on their own in order to cause some kind of effect. Some of these cards are absolutely bonkers. You have no idea what kind of nonsense could take place on any given turn, and to showcase this, here are a few of my favorite cards. Mind Control. Hypnotize enemy troops via TV and radio. Replace with half of the armies of your color in one area of your choice. Toxic Waste. Dump toxic waste in one area of your choice. No army may enter or leave this area, no army may attack into or out of this area, and no new army may be placed into this area for one turn. ICBM. Launch a nuclear strike against one area of your choice. All armies in the area are eliminated. No army may enter that area until after your next turn. Rebellion. This card creates a new neutral player. All armies in one area of your choice rebel and declare their independence. Yes, sir! The rebels will not voluntarily attack any other player. Each turn before your player turn, the rebels grow by 3 armies. Mad Cow Disease. Secretly supply opposing armies with bad meat. Choose one area adjacent to an area you control. The armies in the target area go temporarily insane and immediately make an involuntary attack against a randomly chosen adjacent area. The insane armies may attack armies of their own color. Ebola. Attempt to kill half of the armies rounded down in one area. Roll 1 die. If the result is 1, 2, or 3, only the target area is affected. If the result is a 4 or 5, the virus escapes and attacks every area on a random continent. If the result is 6, the virus affects every area on the map. That's a pretty big oopsie. Black Helicopters. Mysterious black helicopters aid your attacks on one continent of your choice. Add 2 to all your die rolls when you attack from areas on your chosen continent. I like how they never explain who these people are, they just show up, help you out, and then leave without saying a word. Mutant Horde. This card creates a new neutral player. Turn all armies in one area of your choice into mindless, homicidal mutants. Each game turn, following your player turn, the mutants attack one randomly chosen adjacent area. After the attack, all defending armies killed by the mutants join the mutants. And yes, this can end up causing the mutants to win the game if you all are that hopeless. Orbital Laser. Vaporize one army anywhere on the map. Just a real F you in particular, buddy. Get vaporized. And my favorite card, the United Nations. You draft a strongly worded resolution condemning the militarism of an opposing player. Your resolution is passed unanimously by the Security Council, and your speech regarding the matter is well received by the General Assembly. There is no effect. I'm just really glad that you can play this card at any time. It opens up a lot of variety in your options. So yeah, this causes the game to get just a little bit ridiculous, but hey, if you wanted to try it out for yourself, this sucker is currently on Tabletop Simulator as part of the Mulligan's Pub Risk, a combination of a couple of these that really shakes up the game. My favorite part is that Alaska just borders Central America now. I'd like to think that they keep their same climates, but it changes the second you hit the borderline like a Minecraft biome. But even with all of this going on, I don't know, it still feels like the game is just too organized. What we need to really spice things up is to add a little bit of chaos into the mix. We need Chaos Risk. Now, before I show you the front of this rulebook, I need you to imagine what the art for a game called Chaos Risk would look like. And note that I am not responsible for any injuries that would happen as a result of this reveal. Ladies and gentlemen, Chaos Risk. That is anything and everything I would ever hoped it would be. Chaos Risk is very similar to One World Dominion in what it does to the game. All of the standard rules of Risk remain, but each one of the country cards now carry an additional effect that can be activated in lieu of turning them in for troops. So just like in One World Dominion, I'm going to highlight some of my favorite territory cards here. Strap in because things are about to get a little bit chaotic. Alaska. You may add 4 armies to any province controlled by an opponent. Useful if you really want to screw over someone else who's attacking, or if you want to get real disrespectful by buffing up a force and then knocking them out anyway. Brazil. Treats for everybody. All players may immediately add 5 armies to any province they control. East Africa. Remove any 3 armies from the map. Triple the power of the orbital laser, but hey, at least these guys get to keep their bodies. Eastern Australia. You may move armies between Eastern Australia and Argentina this turn. Buddy just invented a new oceanic route. Egypt. Denial. Reroll any single attack or defense roll. Yes, it's here because of the name, alright? I'm weak. India. Elephants. Double everything this turn. You may use no other cards during this turn. Can't wait to stomp the defense into mush after rolling 3 12s. Thanks, guys. North Africa. Mines. Remove a third of the armies rounding up from any attacking force. Ooh, that's gonna end up causing quite a campaign. Northwest Territory. Yokels. Add 3 armies to any province in North America. What the heck did the Canadians do to you guys? Siberia. Fanatics. Add +1 to all attack rolls this turn. You take double casualties. Lock in, boys. Double of 0 is still 0. Southern Europe. Guns. Remove a third of the troops in a target province, rounding up. Oh, watch out, they have guns. I better get my cannon out of here. Venezuela. Insurgents. Place 6 neutral armies in Venezuela. Resolve combat immediately. What, I don't get Venezuela? Well, now nobody gets Venezuela. Western Europe. UN. The active player may not attack your provinces this turn. Well, at least they're doing something this time. And finally, the Western United States. UFOs. Add 15 neutral armies to the Western US. Resolve combat immediately. Unironically, the Western US and by proxy the entire North American continent bonus is now just an undesirable target because of this card. It is going to actively wipe out any force that is around the respectable army size. Stay away from Nevada. And that is Chaos Risk. Adds a whole lot of crazy into the game, sure, but you know one thing that it doesn't add? Dinosaurs. I was promised that these things would be fighting against a modern military force recently blessed with the guns bonus. Heck, come to think of it, I didn't see a giant woman in there anywhere either. This is a load of baloney. Orbital laser vaporized this man. But with those concluded, I think we have officially managed to look through both the worst and weirdest of Risk. What the heck did we learn from this experience? I haven't the slightest. Put down below if you learned anything of note, and if it's convincing enough, maybe we can write this off for college credit or something. If you're interested in some of those unofficial expansions for Risk, I'll put the links for them down in the description. Can't say for sure what they'll do to the game balance, but hey, they'll sure shake things up. As for me, I'm going to continue to poke and prod various world leaders until I can get this new war officially up and running. Opinions on Risk Real Life Edition are projected to be mixed, but I think we'll eventually find our audience. Signing off for Hasbro-approved slavery, I am KamSandwich. Thank you for watching and have a fan-tastic day. A special thank you to my suppliers, staff, and chefs over at the deli, as well as the media preservers helping me get these rare games ported for the public to enjoy. If you'd like to join the crew, you can take a look using the link in the description below.